go into OOP or go into depth in
So like, will you stop like teaching?
No. You can still count it as CAS. It's the same thing. I count it as the same activity or project. Wait, this is the same. Okay, I think you haven't seen this picture before. No.
Smileys.
Yeah.
You get the crook and the hook behind you.
Should I do that? Do you think it looks? Yes. Okay. So guys, today we'll look at how we can store different kinds of values and the concept behind it. So basically, introduction to variables. A variable is a letter or a name that can store a value. That's clear.
When you upload this,
Everything will be uploaded.
To Facebook.
Yes. No. We'll see. So you can store a number. For instance, height of a building or a word. Or a person's name. Or basically, a word is a word. So, and the variables can change their value. You need to know. And if you want to, you can write down these usages if you want to. And you can declare a variable. So basically, as we did, we created an integer, we created an I variable, we declared it. We can assign the variable a value. So for instance, when we wrote like this declaration, basically wait, I will come to it. Yeah, I will come to it. You can assign a variable a value, and you can also use the value inside the variable, basically. That's the purpose of that. So, as you can see, here's the structure of variable. It's probably really familiar. You have this basically int tells that it's the data type, and that's what basically we are going to talk about. Then you have the name, and then you have the value. And basically what you see on the screen is a typical declaration of a variable. So we say that this variable can only contain integers, pure integers. So it can be all integers. Yeah. We assign it the name, we assign it the value, 12, which is an integer. Yeah, by the way, the previous picture, that was a declaration of a variable. Now we have this assigning variable. And here, by the way, you see different kinds of variables. You have a double, you have a name. So this is a string variable, this is a double, this is a boolean. So this can only store true or false, this can store all strings, this can store all decimal numbers. And by the way, what I said with integers, in math, all integers are all, isn't it, negative and positive. So basically, they can be negative and positive. So basically, it's like our number line, you know. So you have 3 minus 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, blah blah blah. This is the integers. But in programming, this is partly true because actually you have a limit, as you can see. You have this limit, 2 billion something.
but doesn't that depend if it's 64-bit?
Yeah, that depends as well, because an integer, what I mean in this case, is typical int, which is the same as int32. And basically, if you are good at Boolean, like, you know, binary numbers, then you can figure out that this value that we get there is actually we have to come back to it, but it's 30 bit. Basically, you have 30 bits. This number consists of 30 bits, 32 bits, and this number 60 bits, I think, and this consists of 60 bits. And together they make 32 bits. So for instance, but if you would like to save like a number like 42.5, you should use double, of course, because it can store these kind of values. And if you want to use store text, you preferably use strings. And if you only need to store like true or false, then you use a boolean. Oh, and I think there is a page here. Yeah. Okay, and also, by the way, you can, as you know, in order to assign a variable, you have to declare it first. So, by the way, you remember this procedure. You write int something, yeah, something equals 3. This is a declaration, and this step you don't need to do it more than once. So this you do only once, but then you can change the value of something. So you just like something equals 4 instead. These operations can be performed, I think, infinitely amount of times, but the declaration needs to be performed only once, because you need to declare the variable only once so that the system knows that you want to have a variable that's called something. That it's only required once. And it's important that you declare a variable using a default value, so in this case 3, because if you would remove this part and say that, for instance, say we have console read line, for instance, no, write line. And if you would write the content or the value of something, then you would get a compiler error. So you shouldn't do that. You should always put the value. If nothing, just put 0. But it's really important to have some sort of value. And that's the same for all variables. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So basically, this is how it looks like. You see decimal. Oh. Do you think it's better if I put this down? What do you think?
Yeah.
But then you can't write. So
Yeah, then I can't write.
You just put it down, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, here, this is a default. Basically, assign a variable a default value. So 6.9. It's a string, true or false. And I think I mentioned this. In order to display in the console application development environment, that's basically what we are dealing with. We can basically write it as C console. How is it? Console. Eric, help me. I remember. Is there an ending, like a short? No. Yes. Okay. In console applications, that will they're like black and white. These old-fashioned stuff. Basically, what we are doing right now. Then you only need to write console write line, and then you enter the variable name. That's how you display the value on the screen, at least. And here's a list of data types, and I think you have them in the booklet. You don't need to remember. You preferably you should know them, but I would recommend that you know integers, boolean, for instance, decimal, and strings. They are really important ones. And as I said, I think Martin pointed this out, that there are two kinds of integers. There is the 32-bit integer and 64-bit integer. And you probably ask, why do we have two kinds of integers? And it actually depends what you want to use them for. If I just want to have a for loop, or like a loop, for loop like 100 times, I don't need to have an int 64. I need to have that, because it's all about memory. I know nowadays we don't need to think about like how much memory we allocate, or I mean how much memory we have, because on old systems the memory, the bits, the kilobytes are really important, and it was really important to pick the right type, because I mean if I would have done, because decimal, that's also a number, double is also a number, float is a number, and these two are numbers. If I would have created like a loop using a decimal, of course it would take longer time. Not because you wouldn't see any difference, but still, it would take longer time. And in long run, if you would have a lot of these loops, it would, of course, change the performance of the product. So when to use what? And then, I think I answered it. Integers, basically used when you want to work with whole numbers. Float and double are basically used when you want to perform scientific calculations. So float is, I think it's single precise, no, wait a minute. It's a single precision floating point, and double is double precision floating point. And also, which you use depends on the task. If you work with really small values, you choose float, and if you want to work with big calculations, then you choose double, of course. And then you have the last one, which is called decimal, and basically this is mainly used when you're working with financial calculations, such as money and so on. So, as you can see, there are different usages. And you probably ask, why wouldn't we have one variable that represent all numbers? And that's actually possible. There are languages today that allow you to just write number equals 3. And then it knows that it's a number. You don't need to care if it's an integer, float, or decimal. But C# is like, even though it's a high-level language, it's still a language where you want to specify what you mean by what, and what kind of numbers you want to work with. And I think it's actually really good. So now we know what variables are. I think I will put this down. Now we know that. Any questions, by the way? No? Any questions? Any questions? No? Okay. Arrays. Used to store numbers in a specific order. That's probably a bad definition. But arrays are variables that contain several values of that specific data type. What you need to know about C# arrays that are zero-based or zero-indexed. That means that the first item in your array will be 0. So if you want to access it, the first item you should use 0, and etc. And these braces, or if they're called, that indicates that it's an array. So you can see as in the previous example. If I want to collect the height of students, I just write int, this fixed there, height of students equals, and then have these numbers in, and separate them with comma, yes?
So basically it's a set.
Yeah, it's a set. But the thing is, when you talk about a set can have... No, numbers of order. In this case, this is the first, this is the second, or yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, they're order. That's the difference between a set and an array. Yeah, to retrieve, an element from an array. That's done by this, by doing this. So, height of students, then you use the same brackets, enter 0, and then you'll get the first item of that.
Does it have to be 0?
No, you can change it. But as long as it is, for instance, if I have an array, so look, on the previous example, we have 4 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 items. Then this number here can't be bigger than 5.
4.
3.
Yeah.
4.
If it's
5.
4 items.
Yeah, it depends. I think it was 5 items. I counted wrong. Yeah, and to change the value of an element, that's basically done by this. So basically, it's the same logic. Imagine that you don't have these brackets here. Imagine that this is a variable. You just change it. It's the same principle. So I want to change the second height, or actually this will be the third height, to 179. And this is how you change it, and this is how you write it. I don't think it's the same as a variable, but you add these brackets. So. Yeah, if you want to have an array that contains a certain amount of elements, then you can declare it by using, so you write int array equals new int. New, it means that you want to create a new integer array. And I don't think I need to explain why you put the new, but basically integer, when you deal with arrays, they are reference types. It means the value is actually not stored in this variable. The value is stored on the heap. So it's stored somewhere in the memory. And the only value that this variable has is the path So it's the way to the heap, basically, where you have stored the values. And basically, new int, so a new integer array that contains 10 elements. Really, I think it should be obvious here. And if we want to declare, yeah. So basically, you don't need to add these things, but I would recommend to do that. So you just write height of students 2 equals new integer array, and this means what elements should be inside there. Any questions on this? So we can move forward. So yeah, as we see, compare this to that. Basically, both works, but this is actually much faster because you don't need to write this long part here. And try to do this. Do you have your computer with you? Yeah, I think you could try to do this, just for fun. And basically what this code is doing is, it will write all of the elements in this array. And I don't think you need to have it right now, but you can get it at least. If you take it to the next so this is the final task to look at, but you don't need to solve it.
But you got this answer.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think I
I think I have it.
Were you?
Oh, did
the
you have-
last time?
No, I went there the last time.
No, keep
Were
it,
you
keep
in
it.
the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to understand what's on this paper, but if you look at the right array on the screen there you can see how I have implemented the writing and how I can write an array. This will write each element on each line if you try to do this. But the second one that I have on the paper, which will write them in order with a space as a separator. So the space of there are separator key. You can try to do it. I think you can do it. Would you like me to do it, or should we go on quicker so we can learn more? Or do you understand this?
So I can do.
But are we going to try to do this?
Yeah, let's try to do this. So, just basically, you remember how to create a new project? Console application?
What's the name called?
What conditions to this?
Is it the
Yes?
Express or the Professional?
I think you have the Express. I think. Do you have the Express version?
Yeah.
There is no difference between the professional version and the Express version. So, what did they say here? Oh, I removed the... So basically, try to write this down and see what happens. I can keep it as a code reference. How to write out elements of an array. Because I think in programming, you will basically you will use these a lot. Or it depends, of course, what you are what you are dealing with. But like writing all elements of the array is one of the key things you need to know. So in this case, if you would have a set of numbers and you want to present them in a good way on the screen, just do it. By the way, have you written it down?
Mine's still loading.
Is it still loading? Oh, this computer is also slow.
Did they ever come out with a new version? Or this is like 2010?
I think there is a 2012 now. Philip, isn't it?
I have Windows on.
Why is it 2010?
Wait, is it done? Well, I mean, is it released?
Yes.
Yeah, you can download it from Winspire for free.
Yes. It was how I got this. Well, I don't know. Let's keep to 2010. But it's safe. I mean, there is no difference. I mean, you can use 2010, you can use 2008, you can use 2012. It doesn't matter. It's the same. Okay, there are new features, new icons, new design, or so on. But it's no big difference in the syntax of the language, I would say. There are probably a new framework, but nothing beyond that. Okay, let's do this. So,
What's the registration key?
I think you can use this in 30 days. But you can register it later. You don't need to do it now, I think. No, it's not required.
We haven't defined it.
I don't speak Persian.
Okay, guys, let's have everyone see what will happen. Have everyone tried
We
it?
started.
Okay, why is the writing less than symbol off the top?
Where do you mean? In the loop, you mean?
Yeah, it says integer I is equal to 0, then I less than height.
When I is lower than the array.
Okay, that's a good question. Because basically the height of students will dot length will tell you how many elements you have in this array. It will count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically this will be equal to 5. Let's try this out.
Does the spaces matter between them?
No. C# is, I mean, you don't need, you just need to keep this, brackets at the right place and, semicolons at the right place, then it will work fine. You don't need to care about spaces. They will be ignored by the compiler. So height equals, By the way, don't forget to write console read line, because otherwise it will execute and turn off. Which keyboard are you using? The Swedish one or the? I think. How do you do that?
I use Control Alt, so I think it's 8. No, 0. 0 and 7.
Yeah, basically, guys, length will display how many items you have, counting like this as 1, 2, and 3. So basically, it tells you how many elements it is. But when you want to access an element in the array, you need to start from 0. It's really confusing, I suppose. But I think you can agree with me that this will be bigger than so actually, if you would try to write height of students, then you open these brackets, and then you write height of students dot length and the bracket. Then you will get a compiler error, because then it will try to access an element that does not exist in the array, which is impossible. Okay. You understand why? It's basically.
Wait, is this like those things where you input something and something is like taken out?
Yes. The elements you have in the array are supposed to come out when you execute it, when you launch this program. That's the purpose of it. At least.
Like what would you put in? You put in like a. Why would you put in a 5 or not like a 171?
Here, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just put whatever you want to. It doesn't matter.
What comes up then?
Well, the numbers that you have put into the array, they will come out. Basically, this thing here is a way of printing out the values that you have entered into the inside. Yeah, yeah.
Like I remember like when you put in like if it would give you this question and it would give you a specific answer back.
No. This is not an if statement, an if statement. This is basically, how should I explain it? It does not, how should I? Basically, basically you can assign an array any value, before you have executed the application. So you can change it as much as you can. But as you have executed the application, you can't change the values unless you have specified it in the code somewhere. Basically, if I then want to see what kind of values I have in the array, if probably imagine that I had some code here, they changed some values or added some values to this array. Then I want to display the new values to the user on the screen. And then the thing is, the user can't see basically because he doesn't have the source code of my program. He can't see what values I put into the array. So therefore, we need to print them out using a for. I can explain. Yeah. Yes.
About the bigger than I symbol, isn't that integer I is equal to 0? That means that the first 171 is 0, and then you're going to print out everything except for 171, because it has to be bigger than I, which is 0.
Yeah. You mean?
Is it going to skip 179
Yeah.
on the screen? Or
I think no. Why 179? I mean.
because it has to be bigger than I, and I is 0, and 171 is 0.
No. Height of students dot length. It's just it doesn't give you any of the. I mean, these values. It just gets you the amount of elements in the array, the count. And as you know, the 0 base means start from 0 and go to 4. Well, I think if you look here, I'll do it quickly here. So let's say we have 5 values in 5 elements in that array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I want to print them. So what do I do? I create a new for loop. For loop is less than height length. Okay, and I want to print all of the values inside. Height. There is something called breakpoints. So if you execute this function, this program, you can set breakpoints. So that means the program will break where you want it to break. So, and before, so as you can see, when a for loop, when C# sees that there is a for loop, it will first look at this. So int I equals 0. So it declares a variable called I, and it assigns the value 0, the default value. The next step is to check if the I, the new declared variable, is less than height.length, which is 5 in this case, because it's 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it will go execute the first statement, and then it will go out. And then, when that's done, it will go and increase the I by 1. And now it will turn directly to the expression value. So if this is satisfied, it will continue to loop until this is false. Any questions there? So this is obvious, I suppose. Yeah. And now let's see, if I remove the break, you don't need to know the breakpoints, they're not important. Not in this. So, as I said to you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, I could have changed the values. So I could have written like I plus 1, for instance, inside here. And can someone guess what values I will get on the screen? Yeah, there we have it. Height. Okay. Then you will get 2, 3, 4, 5, because then we would have started from 1 and up to 4. Yeah. Is this clear? Yeah. Because now we can move on. I don't see the point to just. Okay. And conclusion finally. We saw that height of students not length, as I said to you now, is the amount of elements in an array. In our case, it's 5. However, it makes only 4 iterations, because arrays are 0 units. And summary is what we have done today. We have gone through how to create variables in different data types. And can someone tell me what a data type is?
For instance,
Yeah. And do you know why we have different data types?
the float number,
What?
the float number stuff.
Yeah. What?
Depends what we're gonna calculate.
Yeah. So what would I use if I would? I mean, we can basically look at the questions if you want to. So and as well, we have worked with arrays. Yeah, that's what we have done. But before, we can look at if you turn to page 6 in the booklet, and you can basically just quickly look through the questions here. So they ask you to
Revert.
page 6, I think. I think if you so what's the variable? Something that can store a value. Pretty obvious. What can be stored in the variable? Now that depends on what data type you have. If you have an integer, then all numbers. If you have a string, only text. How do you declare a variable of data? Have I misspelled it? Yeah, of type integer with a value of 78 and a name and number. Can you guess how you declare it? There are 3 things given in this problem. You have the data type, integer, you have the name, and you have the value. So basically, what they ask you to do is, I think it's clear this. This is what they want you to do. They want to create an integer and name which equals to 78. Simple. Can an integer contain infinite amount of numbers? Can someone answer this question? No. And you know why? Because, I mean, as I said, different data types can contain different amounts of numbers. Basically, like int 32, basically int. It can contain like I think minus 21 million up to 21 or 22 million. These kind of values. And then if you declare int 64 variable, then it can contain like I think some billions of numbers, but only integers. Only integers. And here a typical question: what may happen if you try to use the variable before it has been assigned a value? And really obvious, the compiler, basically C# will tell you, no, there is nothing there, so it will break your application. And this is really interesting. If you are developing a system that will calculate the salary after taxes of each employee in the company, what data type will you prefer to use? Can someone answer this? You can look, as a help, you can look at the page.
The last one.
Last one, and which was that? Decimal. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so decimals, only for financial calculations. And of course you can use the decimal as an integer, because it's like integer is a subset, you know, this set theory is a subset of decimals. But it doesn't have that much restrictions. So and the last question, if you are creating a while loop that will iterate 2000 million times, what data type are you to use? And I think this is int 32, if I remember right. Yes, I think that was all. Do you have any questions? Or should we end here, or should we continue? Should we end? Oh, Arthur.
My lab will just now.
Guys, are you tired today? Or do you want to go home, or do you want to continue? Just a question. Or do you want to continue with like new stuff? Was this new for you?
Yeah. That was very new.
Should we end, or should we?
I think we should end.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, thank you. And after any questions, just take them up. And by the way, next time, I think we'll look at, I can just show you, so it'll be like a cliffhanger here. We will look at the functions and methods that what we will focus on. When we are done with that, we will look at algorithms, like number algorithms, for instance, games, number games, as I said in the beginning. So if I want to make the computer challenge me somehow, so there are a lot of interesting games that we will work with, and I think the knowledge we'll get here will help us a lot when we work with algorithms, because otherwise it's just pure math. Does it still record? I can just turn it on. Yeah, we shouldn't turn it off.